Any Tf2 player could tell you that crits hurt. They allow you to turn the tide of battle, annihilating a cluster of players or taking out one key member of the enemy team. Sometimes you just need that burst of damage a crit provides, and Tf2's various weapons sure can deliver it. This top 10 will cover my top 10 favourite weapons that can gain guaranteed crits or mini crits in certain situations. Using these weapons, you can muscle your way through overheal and dazzle your opponents with a splatter of gibs and a flash of tracer rounds. To increase variety, weapons that naturally crit with things like headshots or backstabs will not be included in this list. Also, this list is restricted to weapons that can crit themselves, not weapons that crit boost other weapons such as the Girardi, the Criticola, or the Kritzkrieg. And with that rather hefty disclaimer out the way, let's get right into it. Number 10. Starting off this list is the Backscatter. I know that the inclusion of the scattergun will be a contentious decision, especially when I reveal what weapons didn't make the cut, but I felt the Backscatter, despite the finicky nature of its mini-crit mechanic, really deserved a spot on this list. That's because the Backscatter's backstab mechanic doesn't rely on a gimmicky combo or long cooldowns to work. This weapon may be slightly underpowered in regular combat, but if you can fulfill the weapon's conditions for mini-crit, which aren't too difficult to complete, with support weapons such as Bonk Atomic Punch, the Backscatter can prove to be a fearsome weapon against an unaware team. In my opinion, the opportunistic mini-crits this weapon can provide, despite the loss of accuracy and clip size, is enough for this weapon to just scrape in and snag the number 10 spot on this list. That being said, I've got my eye on the Backscatter, as I believe that will only take a small adjustment or buff to make this weapon the fearsome flank machine it was designed to be, and I hope we get to see the next evolution of this weapon in a future patch. Number 9. The killing gloves of boxing are probably on this list more because of personal preference than any other weapon. Sure, they're pretty terrible compared to the amazing heavy melee options, such as the Gru or the Fists of Steel, but I have never had as much fun with a crit weapon as I have had with the KGB. While it works best with the Buffalo Stake, you're not actually forced to combo this weapon with anything, and while the crit boost does transfer across your weapons, I'm not going to consider that for this list, as it's made for weapons that provide crit boosts for themselves, although it's a very useful touch. Nothing beats going on a crazy uppercut spree with the KGB. Heavy's natural tankiness compared with the constant stream of 195 damage blows can make for some incredible highlights. Sure, luring an enemy into melee range as Heavy isn't easy, but it's damn rewarding when you consider the amount of damage you can put out thanks to the 5-second crit boost. The fact that you can chain the boost over and over again and gain potentially infinite crits is the real appeal of this weapon. As long as there are more enemies to kill, then more crits will come. And it's a really satisfying way to deal with a crowd of people, most effectively in a tight, confined area. The main downside of this weapon is that it isn't other, more useful heavy melees. The decreased firing speed means you have to be a little bit more careful with timing your swings, but other than that, there are no disadvantages to using them at all. It's for these reasons that I'm more than happy to put the KGB on this list. Number 8. The Flying Guillotine is an all-round ridiculous weapon. This bizarre kitchen utensil gives Scout, a close-range class, a long-range harass option. It also opens up the opportunity for the incredibly gimmicky, but effective, Sandman Cleaver combo. The Flying Guillotine will inflict a mind-blowing 150 damage on a stunned player, who is generally easy to hit on account of being stunned. Of course, there has to be a downside for this amazing amount of damage that the Scout can deal while being outside of his regular combat range. That is cooldowns. Both the Cleaver and the Sandman have cooldowns. This combo is not only gimmicky and ridiculous, but requires both of your cooldowns to have reset before you can pull it off. It's for this reason the Guillotine isn't higher on this list. While the 150 burst damage is impressive, it's just what it is, burst damage. Certainly nothing you can pull off regularly or with any kind of consistency. It's about the only thing holding this weapon back from achieving a higher spot on this list. Number 7. The Market Gardener is probably the best example of removing randomness from Tf2 and replacing it with skill. This weapon is loved and respected by the community, and it's actually reached 360 no-scope levels of hype over the years. If you manage to crack an enemy on the head with your Market Gardener while mid-rocket jump, you can expect, well, ping and lag considered, the resounding thwack of a 195 damage critical hit. Market gardening or trolldering is one of the most fun and rewarding things you can do in Tf2, and allows you to put your jumps, strafing, and prediction to the test in one giant leap of faith, and potentially death. With enough skill and a little luck, a soldier can perform market gardens consistently and become like a bird of prey in the sky, swooping down and ending enemy players one after the other. Well, the market gardener is dear to my heart, and I'm sure to many of yours as well. I couldn't place it any higher than I did on this list, and that's just because, while I love the market gardener, and it's incredible for assassinating individual players and making spectacular kills, it doesn't have the same kind of game-changing effect with its crits, and can't take out enemies as easily as the next weapons on this list. Still, it's a time-tested classic. The market gardener's made its mark on Tf2, and our favourite critical shovel isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Number 6. You and your team have finally pushed through that sentry that's been holding you back the entire game. The timer is ticking down to 0. You and your medic sprint towards the final objective, and out pops the enemy engineer holding his trusty Frontier Justice, the gun crackling with a critical glow. He unloads all 3 shots, each dealing 180 damage. You disconnect and uninstall the game. Now, that example may have been a little unrealistic, but the Frontier Justice doesn't really mind ignoring some of the more basic rules of reality in the Tf2 universe. Engineer, a class that relies on its contraptions to succeed, can use the Frontier Justice to put out damage the main combat classes couldn't dream of. Sure, the 50% clip size hurts Engi's ability to dish out these crits he can earn with his buildings, but it's a small price to pay in order to wield that kind of damage. One of the most curious things about the Frontier Justice is just how the crits ignore damage fall off. This shotgun is able to do reasonable damage at medium to long range because of this, making an engineer loaded with revenge crits dangerous at pretty much any range. Of course, it can be tricky to rack up kills on your sentry, so I can see why people would see it as a win more weapon, where it's only really effective if you're already doing well, but I choose to see it as a carry more weapon. After all, if you've already gotten so many kills and assists with your sentry gun, you must have been doing something right, and is it too much to ask for a little reward for your services to the team? No longer do you have to play the fearful and paranoid maintenance man when using this weapon. The Frontier Justice allows you to play the hero, even if only for a short while. Number 5. The direct hit does a lot of damage, like a lot, enough to kill you in one shot if you pick the wrong class at the start of the game. Obviously, when designing a rocket launcher that deals more damage than any other rocket launcher in the game, you need to give it another mechanic which enables it to deal even more damage. Seriously. The direct hit is a great weapon in its own right. If you're good at leading targets and like to make light classes cry themselves to sleep at night, as well as heavy classes actually, okay, if you want to make everyone on the enemy team cry themselves to sleep at night, this is the weapon for you. Sure, you can't just shoot the ground and hope for the best, but if you can connect your shots, damn is it effective. Even more so, denying a rocket or sticky jumping enemy, hell, even shooting an enemy you knocked airborne is enough to activate the mini crit damage of the direct hit. In order to reward air shots, the direct hit inflicts mini crits, which is good enough even on a regular rocket launcher, but on the direct hit with its faster projectile and increased base damage, it's enough to make you wince whenever the triple-digit damage numbers flash across your screen. I think that's more than enough reason to place this weapon so highly on this list. Number 4. The loose cannon is one of the most underappreciated weapons in the game. Not only do cannonballs go insanely fast, not only can you time your explosions to go off whenever you please, making them like a second set of airburst stickies, not only is the knockback so ridiculously strong it feels like you've been teleported across the map when you're on the receiving end of it, not only are the rollers some of the best in the game, but have you seen double donks? Knock back an enemy with a cannonball and time the explosion just right, you'll be granted a mini crit double donk which has the potential to deal a ridiculous amount of damage. Unlike a weapon like the direct hit, which requires your enemy to be in a particular state, say knocked airborne in order to gain mini crits, the loose cannon only relies upon your own skill and timing, making it a weapon with an absurdly high skill ceiling, requiring incredible spatial awareness to utilize it fully. Double donks are often the difference between life and death, victory and loss. Use them wisely, and please try to avoid them when you're coming your way. At least make up for all the times they've claimed my life. Number 3. The flare gun is Pyro's instant death switch. Get in close range, licked by flames, and ensnared by an air blast, and it's all over. Being able to throw out a solid 90 damage crit in the time it takes to click your fingers, it was what makes the flare gun so threatening. The surprising thing is that it's a great weapon outside of using it just for crits, giving Pyro a legitimate option when it comes to long range harass, something he is sorely missing in his stock loadout. Now, my aim with the flare gun isn't very good, but I've seen what can be done with this weapon in skilled hands, and it's insane how much damage you can punch out by chaining successive flare gun crits. Plus, the ability to ambush and finish off light classes is unrivaled. One silent but important positive that comes with the flare gun is the passive reload, allowing you to fully utilize your melee, flames, and air blast, all while having a flare ready to finish off an enemy whenever you need it. It's for these reasons that the flare gun ranks so highly on this list, and why it will be a staple in Pyro's arsenal for many years to come. Number 2. The reserve shooter is like the flare gun on steroids in terms of damage. This shotgun gains guaranteed mini crits on airborne targets for 5 seconds after you whip this weapon out. You don't even need to ignite a target on fire to deal the mini crit damage, which is more than the maximum damage a crit flare can deal. This is insane, considering the shotgun also has 4 shots in each clip and can fire them in rapid succession. This kind of damage, as well as the knockback thanks to the mini crits, means you can juggle enemies in the air after puffing them up with an air blast until their corpses rain back down to the earth. This weapon is incredibly easy to use too. You don't even need to lead your targets like you do with the flare gun, as the damage is instant, and enemies can hardly strafe or dodge when suspended in midair thanks to the air blast. The reserve shooter came so close, but couldn't quite steal the top spot, because of course that would have to go to... And the number 1 spot goes to... It had to be the Flog. Doesn't matter if the reserve shooter is more competitively viable, or if the Flog is situational, or only good against noobs, or whatever. When I think of crits, when I think of carnage, of a player disintegrating an entire team, nothing comes to mind before the Flog. Capable of gaining more crits just by dealing fire damage, the Flog feels like it has limitless ambush potential. Players respect a crit boosted Pyro, as they know straying too close means guaranteed death. Thanks to its ability to slay entire teams, bury entire respawn waves, and melt away the enemy's chances of victory, the Flog comfortably takes the place as my number 1 crit weapon in Tf2. Man, this video is getting really long. I've put my honourable mentions in the description, so check it out if I didn't include your favourite crit weapon. And also check out a small bonus video, New Upward Meta, by clicking the annotation or in the description. Sorry for being inactive for a while. See you next time.